Great morning, world. Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon.
What's up, great morning world? It's pretty funny. What you can't see is while that music is playing is like, I'm like into it, I'm like Dragon, total selfish act, this podcast, it just makes me feel good about myself. So anyway, great morning world. So good to be with you today. Excited about this guest. There's an organic nature to, why we're going to have the real Doug Woods. I'm wearing one of his shirts today. What's interesting about me wearing the real Doug Wood stuff, or the Kick Fear in the Face stuff that his beautiful wife Thea created, is that on the back, and I noticed this today on the nape of my neck, it says DW. So like, I'll just be going through the day and I'll just like turn around and be like, what do you think, Doug? Is that cool? So let me bring him out here right now. This is my great friend, Doug, and I just want to give him full circle, because we've known each other for a while. We've kind of grown up together. So this is a little bit of a special treat to every now and then get a timestamp on like what the heck has happened. But Doug is a great friend and he's a partner. I've had the ability to watch Doug, start off as just this crazy dude, that I was probably like a little bit intimidated by, because I'd like to think that I was the only crazy person in the world. But I remember when I first met Doug and Thea, I just said, man, those two people are going to be successful. Not necessarily because they're talented, but I just saw fire in their eyes. And, it's that different kind of a fire where you look at somebody and you say, that looks like somebody that's not going to quit. Big lesson to learn about that. It's like there's this place that success lives, whether you like it or not. So anyway, I've watched Doug, not only become successful building an international coaching company, just massive, just helping so many people. I'm going from helping people get physically, mentally, and financially whole, but then leading an army of people that are leading other people and just duplicating success and awesomeness in people's lives. So they've done that, and that keeps on growing. So very, very big respect for him creating change. But he's also an author. He wrote an amazing book. And it's funny about books, friends and books, like when your friend writes a book, you kind of have to read it. Like you kind of have to buy a bunch of copies if it's a good friend and tell everybody it's awesome. But like Doug's book is good. It's a great book. We had a funny moment in Atlanta. I don't know if he remembers this, but we were walking down a hallway and some woman like ran up and slammed his book against the window to get his attention so he'd come sign it. And I'm like, wow, Doug, I guess your book is good. So great book, Church Boy to Millionaire. He's got a clothing line. His wife, who's his partner in his business, started an amazing brand, purpose-driven brand, Kick Fear in the Face, just one of those names that everybody's like, shit, I wish I thought of that, But Tia's amazing. They're both very, very dedicated to their family, their God, and they're just serious people, but also abnormally fun as well. And the two of them, probably more relevant than anything, full circle. It's been a crazy time in this world with the pandemic and all this crazy stuff going on. They started an online school, like just a awesome online school that just helps you remove your kid from all the insanity out there and puts them in a safe place where they can like not only learn but accelerate. These dudes started it before the pandemic. Like I know that they're pinching themselves every now and then, like, how did we foresee that the world was about to go nuts? So that is blowing up. And more important than anything, our little daughter, Lexi, we call Ducky, is a student at Valor, and she's just thriving there. So we're grateful for that. So I want to bring Doug out here, and I wanted to cue up everything that you probably already know about him. And we've done an episode, so Doug told his whole story, so we won't get into that. But what's up, my brother? How you doing?
Dragon, good to be here, man. It's a freaking honor.
Yeah.
get the invite back to the podcast.
Well, yeah, your second time on. I mean, if we look at the big guys, they haven't been here 2 times, man. So this is huge. I'm gonna get a call from Jamil Frazier soon. Like, yo, what's up, man? I didn't get 2. So anyway, Doug's out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I'm in Scottsdale, but close enough.
Yeah, so Doug and his wife live in a beautiful home they call Breakthrough Acres, and it's just constantly filled with people coming out there and having breakthroughs. It's just amazing. Very proud of my friend Doug and Thea. So the other day, we Doug and I every now and then have these moments where we'll just like talk about something that and go, yeah, whoa, like we'll have these insights. And I want to bring this topic up and let Doug speak to it. It's just this idea of how sometimes, I mean, everybody's going after the Holy Grail. Everybody wants to be happier, healthier, and wealthier. And most of the time they already know what they need to do and they just struggle with executing it. So there's that topic right there. But then there's this whole concept where we just recognize, that we're skating through life. We're kind of getting away with mediocrity. And what's interesting about this topic that I want to just hear his mind, unload some stuff on this is what I notice is that I'm living a life right now. In fact, that's the way I call myself Dragon. I'm living a life right now that I once thought was mythical, meaning I never could have imagined. So I'm in this new reality, and there's been so many upgrades of reality, but I'm in this new reality that's beyond what I used to think. So you'd think that I'd be happy, you'd think that I would be like, okay, cool. I'm just going to die now. I'll just die like this. But what happens is when you're in this reality, you're just in a new first step towards something else. So we never, ever, I didn't know that when I started my journey. But I also know that there's a misperception about success that once you achieve it, you can just chill. Right. And part of it's somewhat true. If you spend a lot of time duplicating yourself and you've got a solid business structure, you kind of can wake up and just throw your B game in a mediocre version of yourself and keep it that way. But there's some struggle involved in that too. So anyway, I just would love to just have you just talk about this topic because it kind of stopped us the other day.
Well, I think at first, Dragon is debunking the myth that your next destination is going to solve most of your problems. And I hate to be a myth buster right now, but I'm going to bust some concepts right now because that was me for many years, thinking that my next win was going to solve my debt crisis or my relationship with my wife, or if I could just do this. And I always found myself disappointed. And I truly know now that we're literally all of us in America are dealing with the same issues, just with different zeros on our bank account or on our paycheck. And we have this true desire, and we all know that we are the greatest human, we are the greatest husband or spouse or person when we are in the pursuit of something. But after we get that win, it's like either what's next or now what? And that's when our own human tendencies, we begin to throttle back and coast. And I think it's important to enjoy some of those processes. I came home from Atlanta. It was a huge win for you, for us, for our company. And I think it's healthy to take a little bit of a rest, but then it's equally as healthy to go, okay, what's next? Now what? And I believe that's the beginning of the process, or I shouldn't say the beginning. That's the continuum of the process of not let those coasting moments become status quo and fallback moments.
Let me ask about that because you just hit on something. Because it's all about first of all, if everybody is like catching themselves being part of what we're talking about as a potential challenge, we forgive you for not what you do. You know what I mean? Like we're all unconscious to this stuff. Because if we actually knew how to catch ourselves, which is what I think we all need to work on, and not get off track. We would all be this interview would be like happening from Mars right now, and Doug would be like in a satellite saying, "Hey, Dragon, the internet's great here." So Doug is referring to this big event, and he's right. It was a massive win. I mean, like Doug, he gave this killer talk from stage, and there's 13,000 people in the crowd, and then there's thousands more watching virtually. So, I was on that stage too. And when I was up there, I was like, man, this is like, like I'm going to deliver the goods and help people. But at the same time, I'm going to have a little moment here and say like, whoa, this is pretty crazy. And then watching all the growth and the success that you've created for yourselves and for others. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting being there for people 100% in service. And then you come home and you need to take a break. And you should. It's important to decompress and stuff like that. But there's a difference between doing that so that you can go to the next step and checking out. So speak a little bit of like, how do you, because I know you're very, very regimented, especially now. If you watch Doug and his wife, they're just like, it's almost like a fitness show watching them, how do you prevent yourself from checking out and staying in the pocket, but also decompressing?
Well, I want to go back to the 13,000 people in that crowd, because most people haven't earned the right to check out, and they think they have. I mean, it takes me back, Dragon, to when I was younger. I used to watch Jerry Springer. I'm embarrassed to say, but you know what? There's some good comic in there. And
do you know that Chicken and I live a mile from Jerry Springer, his show, which is now called Judge Jerry? And we were on his show the other day, and we hung out with Jerry, and we were on TV and everything. It was more important to me than the 13,000 people.
I bet it was. But I remember these people would get up there, and when someone would call them out on something, they would get up and brag about, you don't understand. I raise my kids. I have a job, and they're wanting pats on the back for doing things that you're supposed to be doing. And that was also me. You feel like, oh man, I'm working so hard. And here we got, at some point in the next few weeks, we got Labor Day coming up. And, my stance on Labor Day is you don't get to take it off unless you have been laboring for the last 6 to 7 days, or should I say the last 6 to 7 months. And it comes with this entitlement issue. And when you want to do something massive, you have got to, the force that brings a wave in and crashes on the ocean. And, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Cabo, and they said, no, they had signs up, no swimming in this ocean. Basically, it's too dangerous. The force is so strong. When you want to move a massive mountain, or you have a problem in your life and you need to solve it, and you have the means and you have the know-hows and you have the coaches in your corner that can guide you to do it, it's going to take 6 to 7 months to turn that tide to where it can come crashing down and I believe truly bless you. And the double-edged sword is, one is, don't worry about how to respond. And like the other day, Dragon, I got all these messages like, you're teaching me how to start all these conversations and put so much out. What should I do when they all start coming back in? And I'm like, I will teach you that then, but let's not talk about the what ifs until you have done the work. And I think that's a lesson for all of us. We're all worried about, man, this fear of success. Well, why don't we become successful and then learn how to deal with it then? And trust me, you will grow into that process. And so, you asked me, someone like me, you come home. I think, people coming home from Atlanta, they have no business resting. I think we need to come home. We need to love our kids. We need to love our spouse, tell them that they matter a lot to us. And guess what? You're going to see daddy working hard and working his absolute ass off the next 6 months because I love you so much. And to me, those are when you get those wins. And then, you know what? I think it's important when setting goals, you set accomplishments or timetables to them, because it may take longer than 6 months. But I think you have to look and set, okay, by the end of December or by the end of January, I want to be here. But regardless, I'm going to reassess my goal at the end of January. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to question it. I'm going to work as if, and then I will reassess. Am I still on the right path? Is it going to take 2 more months, or do I need to adjust the goal? But most people stop and they slow down the second things either get hard or they get close to that goal, and then they just start throttling back, and then they wonder why they never get there.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that true? And I love that analogy. And I want to go a little bit further on that. I think that what I perceive now, I can perceive it in this realm where you and I had that moment, because we're at this level where we've got great success, or compared to what most people would think is success. We don't look at it that way, but the idea of going on a run to the next level, even at this phase, even though I fully embrace and understand how to succeed, and if I do it and I commit to it, that 6 months thing, I know what the outcome is already. I've got proof, right? But I still have a tendency of looking at it and going, oof, maybe I'll start tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I can just imagine what it was like for me back in the day when I had no proof that it worked. This is the interesting thing. So I think a lot of people struggle with the expectations of the return on investment. And isn't it funny when somebody says, how do I become physically, mentally, and financially whole? And then it's like, oh, so you're asking me based on the fact that that I've done it and helped a lot of people, right? And they go, yep. And then you say, you're going to do X, Y, Z and commit to it for 6 months, win or lose, we'll reassess then. And then the person, and I totally get it, because, everybody's not only afraid of failure and success, but they're also afraid of wasting time, which is associated with failure. So they'll say, Doug, but like, what can I expect 2 weeks from now? With my health program, with my, what can I expect to, and that just shows that they don't get it. So how do you talk to somebody that has no proof other than having trust and faith in what they've seen you and others create, but they still might have belief issues in themselves? How do you talk to that person that says, so I'm going to go do what for 6 months? And what can I expect?
Well, you can also have the conversation with them. Do you want to repeat the last 6 months and ask them, when having this conversation with someone, because I take full account that I am a good coach and I'm a good structure coach. I'm going to ask people hard questions to find out if they're serious about their goal or if they're giving me lip service. And for those of you listening right now, I know there's thousands of you that listen to this show. It's important that you take real inventory of the habits that you've lived and that you're doing over the last even 18 months. And are you on the right path? Are you fulfilled? Are you pleased with your results so far? Me personally, I'm not. I'm on the right path, but I'm not totally pleased with everything that I've done, that I've said. I set out at the end of April to take my body fat percentage down to 9.8, Dragon. And I knew my habits and I knew my excuses, and I knew depending on the same nutrition plan over and over and over again, or kind of doing it halfway, wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go. So I had to make a drastic change, something that inconvenienced me. I also had to put my money where my mouth is. And I said, I wish you would have been there saying, Doug, you keep talking about this every couple of months when we hang out and chat, but I'm not seeing any different. I'm not seeing your body fat or your weight change. Now, most people won't say that to you, but they might be thinking it. So call yourself out on your own bullshit and say, would I hire me? Would I want to be coached by me? Am I living what I'm saying? Am I walking the walk, talking the talk? No, I've been talking the talk. Am I walking the walk? And so I knew I had to build accountability walls around us, Dragon. And this is what we can all do. And it doesn't take a certain dollar in your bank account, but we have to make drastic choices and decisions. Many people are spending way too much time on the news or on a certain social media app. So it might require deleting it. It might require unplugging or literally unsubscribing from, dare I say, Netflix. Yes, because it's a human trap to keep people complacent. And so I knew that when I went to take off my shirt in early April at an event that I was about ready to speak at, because we were all going to go down and do this thing called School by the Pool. And I'm going down there as a speaker, and I go to take off my shirt, and I'm kind of doing the, flexing and, doing a lot of arms crossed. And my confidence had went low. And I'm like, Thea, that was uncomfortable. Like I felt I exposed myself, and I called myself out on my own bullshit, Dragon. And I said, I have to do something different. And so I made a phone call. I hired someone, and I said, what will it cost for you to literally do everything for me? Because I know my excuses. I know how I get late at nights. What will it cost for you to basically come and sleep at my house for a couple of weeks? Now, some of you guys are like, well, Doug, maybe I couldn't do that. I can't afford that. Well, you know what? I'd made drastic decisions before that too. So you earn your way there, but you know your habits. And I got someone to keep me accountable. Now, he does not live with me, but guess what? I just got back working out with him. And I never made my 9.8% body fat percentage goal in 12 weeks because I did it all for 60 days. In the last 30 days, I began to let excuses creep back in. But I called enough is enough, and I'm back on the path, and I'm staying on that path until I get there. So I had to move out the goal. I said, remember, I told you guys earlier, I set a time frame to hitting that goal, and I was going to reassess. Well, the time frame was Atlanta at the end of July. I didn't hit the goal. I knew where I had messed up. I took personal responsibility. It was nobody else's fault but mine. And I said, do I still want 9.8? And the answer is yes. And today I sit before you at about 14, 13, 8. And I'm like, yes, I do. So that just means it's getting moved out till the 3rd week of September. And I will be at that goal, but I still want it. I'm still working towards it. But life's circumstances is going to get in the way, but I'm not taking my eyes off that prize, nor am I taking and letting my accountability slip any longer.
Yeah. And, this leads into, our programming that we've learned, if you speak to like a granddad right now, actually we're like not too far from that now, but let's like a great granddad, he'll say things like, oh, when I was a kid, we walked to school both ways uphill. And if you don't succeed, try and try again. Right. So those values used to be there, but we've moved into this place. And this is an observation that, and this is what's so powerful about, starting a school, because like, what more can we do legacy wise than like provide, not wait for the kids to get screwed up and then like have them go to a personal growth and reading books and stuff to help unscrew themselves up. Like, let's go like try to not let them get screwed up, But what's interesting is that there's this idea, this is powerful. There's this idea that it's not a consistency issue. It's a competency issue. Now it says, if you don't succeed, try something else. So what you just said is so rich, because, when that person sets the goal, like one of our mentors, Dan Bell, he calls it to make a quality decision, meaning like, be afraid, do it anyway. Know that it might not actually work in 12 weeks, do it anyway, right? So, when you make that decision and you look at something and you have the ability to like not only commit to going after it, because the hardest part of a 6-month journey is day one, or maybe even the day before day one. It's like committing to it. So then you're in it, and all those expectations come up, and to have the ability to get to the end of those 6 months, not achieve it, but take ownership of why you didn't achieve it. Yeah, I mean, like, let me ask you point blank. Do you think, now that you've been through the 12 weeks and you said you had that 30 days of not using your whole ass, maybe your half your ass, right? But do you think if you didn't do that, would you have achieved the 9.6?
100%.
100%. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what's cool about that is that, 100%, 100% means yes, 100%. So that's part of the equation, is knowing what 100%. Doug, do you think anybody has the ability to give 100%?
Anyone.
But for how long?
I think until you decide to fall back and what some say, rest on your laurels, whatever that means. But truly, before you begin to say, I'm just going to take one bite, it's just one birthday party, or it's just one day I can take off of starting conversations, or I don't need to, do X, Y, and Z on my social, or I don't need to call those clients. The moment you justify and say, I'll get back at it tomorrow, I believe is the very beginning of an extremely slippery slope. And I can tell you the exact moment it happened. We went to Las Vegas for Tia's birthday, and we had been perfect for 60 days. And we even took our trainers with us to Las Vegas with us, because we're going to stay on point. And I know I was sitting in a cabana outside the Wynn Hotel. And I said, you know what? Just one beverage this afternoon. We've been working ourselves hard. We both had a beverage, and that was the beginning of a slippery slope for the next 30 days that literally we never rebounded. And it wasn't the beverage. For crying out loud, we've been putting in the work. And we could have stopped at the one beverage. But guess what? It became easier at dinner that night, because the first night we nailed our dinner. The second night after we had the beverage, or should I say 2 beverages by the pool, we went to dinner that night, and then we began to order an appetizer that was not part of our plan. But again, you begin to get broken down. And we all have the ability to stay 100%, because we all know what 100% is for us. Your 100% dragon is different than my 100%, because you know your habits and you know your patterns. And so do I.
Yeah, so fascinating, man, how we can talk ourselves in and out of something. And, I think that there's listeners here that are motivated by this stuff. And the only problem there, and as I talk about this all the time, is that there's a misnomer that you need motivation to succeed. I can promise you that Doug and his wife, when they were perfect for those 60 days, didn't wake up motivated every day. As a matter of fact, that's why they hired these people to come live with them, because they knew themselves, they knew their habits, right? Becoming motivated and unmotivated is a habit. But I think another thing that falls okay, so Chicken and I are getting ready to go to Aruba, and we're perfect on program. We're in your 60 days, right? To the rest of the world, obsessed. Hey, take it easy, guys. This is a little obsessive. That's how I know I'm doing it right. But we're going to Aruba. And so we had our talk the other day about what's going to happen in Aruba, because the truth is we're going to see our daughter in South Africa, in October. So we've set that as the timeline, right? So we're going to Aruba, and we go, well, so what's the strategy for Aruba? And as if it should be different, because it's Aruba, I guess when the water's bluer and the sun is nicer, maybe you're allowed to eat a cheeseburger or something. I don't know the rules behind that, but I found us not, just recreating what perfect means, right? But we caught it because we're conscious about it. And we came to this conclusion that we're just going to do what we're doing here in Aruba. And it'll probably be even more fun to do what we're doing here in Aruba, because Aruba is beautiful. But I think it comes from this safety net that we have. And this plays in. I'd love to hear, because you talk a lot about this. We've been brought up to think that obsessed is a bad word, right? So when you find yourself all in after something, guaranteeing success, that 100%, it's so easy to recognize that compared to everybody else, you're being obsessive, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I think that's where you start creating the hall pass.
Folks, you got to be obsessed. When you make a decision, and again, when you make a decision that means to kill off everything of old that keeps you from growing, you've got to be obsessed. And it's interesting, because you notice how Dragon and Chicken made a decision on the front end, not when they get to Aruba, because what amateurs do is we're going to get there and we're going to do the best we can. Let me just tell you, the best you can, 2 hours off that flight, as you're going through the airport and they're offering you free cocktails.
Hey, just for the record, that's how I got 80 pounds overweight, doing the best that I could.
Right. Because all of our best over good pretty much sucks. So you make a decision on the front end before you're in the moment. And it could be the decision is, and this is where I had to actually retrain my trainer. He's like, Doug, you get one cheat meal a week. He goes, not a cheat day, a cheat meal. And I'm like, I don't do cheat meals. I said, if I'm doing it, it's going to be all by choice. I said, everything is by choice and it's decided on the front end. Cheat is when you, I shouldn't be doing this, and you deal with guilt and you do something that you regret. No, if I've worked my butt off, and he did 14 days into the program, he's like, Doug, you need to take a cheat or a choose, whatever you call it. Mike, you're damn right. To choose me, I need you to take one. You've been almost too strict on the plan, and we kind of need to shock your body a little bit. So I live a life designed by choice. And so I made a choice to have something. It's not going to Aruba and doing X, Y, and Z. It's no, is Aruba and the island's going to own me, or am I going to own it? And here is my plan going in. And friends, if you can get that starting today and you implement one thing in a key area, identify one key area that you need breakthrough in your life, whether it be your marriage, your finances, your faith, your debt reduction, your increase of income, your obsessive thought life, whatever you're dealing with, and implement. Everything is by choice. I'm going to start making a decision to do X tomorrow, no matter how I feel. And here's an interesting short story, Dragon, is my daughter told me she wants to start going to the gym with me every single day. She's kind of been doing it on her own a little bit. She's like, Papa, can I come to the 6 a.m. workout with you and Nate? I'm like, absolutely, baby. I'm like, car leaves at 5:45, or you can drive yourself. The first 2 days, she was ready at 5:45. This morning, as I walked out the door, the alarm's going off. I go in, and I'm not going to wake my kids up. She's 16. She can get her butt out of bed. And parents, pay attention to that. Stop babying your kids. They know how to set an alarm. They can get up to it. But I did walk in, and I said, Mama, you going to the gym? She was, oh, crap. And she starts to get up. I said, I'm leaving. But my challenge to you is you drive yourself there today, because you made a commitment and you will feel good about it yourself. You're not disappointing me. And she was like, yeah, thank you, Papa. And sure enough, I show up. I'm through my first workout with Nate, and here she comes walking in, because she made a commitment, even though she was late, even though she slept through her alarm. I'm glad she gave herself grace, but she didn't completely throw in the towel and say, well, I'm already going to be late. I'm not going. I'll figure it out later, because she knows those habits. Now, this is only day 3. But this is a huge lesson for all of us, Dragon, that I believe the listeners can start implementing. When you make a decision, you remove every single excuse that that you will give yourself.
Yeah, love that. And here we are again, as I always talk about the jacuzzi experience, learning is just a distraction in the absence of action. So here we are learning again. We're listening to the real Doug Woods, and we're all hopped up on excitement now. Maybe even you could even go get a real Doug Woods shirt and prance around. Sometimes that make me feel good. But it's drawing that line and making that decision. And the lesson, the reason why I thought this was an important conversation to have is that we very often see the person on stage. It's one thing to be the guy on stage in front of 13,000, but it's another to be one of 13,000 watching. And you're seeing somebody in what is perceived as a polished state. But it's important to hear, and these are the only kind of people that I like to hang out with. I don't like to hang out with people that think that they're important and that they've arrived and that they deserve more than anybody else. One of the things I respect about Doug and Thea is that they're at this level of success that most people don't know exists, and they're going harder at the next phase of their life than I saw them go when they had nothing. Negative nothing. So that's a respect thing. But lot of valuable gems there. So Doug, last question, just to tie this up here. And also, by the way, Doug's got, an awesome podcast called The Real Doug Wood, right? The Real Doug Wood.
I came out with version 2.
Unplugged.
Doug Unplugged, because you know what? Sometimes you just got to be a little more unplugged.
Yeah, well, that's Doug is known to go unplugged, and if you listen to his podcast like I do, if you liked what he talks about here, he gets a little bit more fired up there sometimes. So, because that's his platform. Like, you come into his house, he's going to say everything the way he sees it. He's actually really nice here with us today. But Doug, both an opportunity for you to yourself on the accountability table, but also just share kind of where your vision's at, because, a lot of people perceive that you've arrived at something. Where is the Woods family going now? What's the next step? I mean, obviously you're going to go for the 9.6. We know that. And what's your thing now that you're focused on and going after? What can we expect from you?
Well, it's really my heart's cry for everyone is in this world that we're living in right now is to be a thinker and just not a follower and a doer, and really look at your life, look at the patterns, look at the people that are breathing into you, and really ask yourself, would I trade lives with them, or have they lived the life that I am aspiring to live? And, for me, that does drag and come with, when we started Valor Global Online. You can follow it on Instagram, or you can go to the website, valorglobalonline.org. I had a desire to see kids not be programmed for a world that it no longer exists, or that is becoming robotic, of just do what I say, versus, no, let's set these kids up to win, and let's set these parents up to win, that life is about continual learning. Because much to where we started this 30, 40 minutes ago, I was disappointed when I hit my first goal. And I was like, this is it. And don't get me wrong, it's nice. It's like, yeah, you enjoy the moment. Maybe you enjoy the reward. And this is my first goal when I hit a goal like 10, 11 years ago. You remember that. You were there, Dragon. And it was like, wow, this is awesome. I thought I had arrived. And a few days later, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. So that must just mean it's a what's next. So yeah, T and I do live that. And I'm asking you, as listeners of this amazing podcast, what's next? Stay in that continuum and make sure that you're setting yourself up to win. You're setting your family up to win, and you're setting them up with real world, items and things and books to read. I mean, it shouldn't be something that when you're out of high school, you start reading personal development books. No, I was 32 years old before I read my first personal development book that had to do with bettering myself. Now it's becoming a habit, a daily habit to get some reading in, and other days. And it seems like to me, my weekends are more for me now. And I spend a lot, and my me time now is actually filling my cup. So I read most of my personal development, and I get more podcasts in during the week. And during the week, I'm pouring out and I'm giving out. And so I'm filling my cup on the weekends now. And mine looks different, but it's really making sure that our kids don't graduate high school without reading a book that really helps them think outside the box to prepare them for the world that really we're already living in, whether they think that it's here or not.
Yeah. And let me just say one last thing on that, and everybody, go, it's pretty easy to find Doug, go check out his podcast, check out Valor Global. Like I said, my daughter's there, and, that's the person I die for, and she's thriving there. What's interesting about the whole kid thing, and this is another topic, and Elon Musk talks about this all the time, but it's quite apparent that technology now is moving. And when I say technology, that includes TV and news and all that stuff. Whatever technology is, anything that our kids are consuming right now. Technology is advancing so much faster than the human that we are close to a place where we will not know the difference between virtual reality and reality. So I just want to give everybody a heads up that's a parent, and then I know this hits Doug, in the heart. Our kids are very, very close to looking at what we call important and normal as a game and thinking that the game is normal. And how's that going to happen? Well, it's a guarantee it's going to happen if we continue to just let our kids consume whatever the heck they think is important to consume based on what their friends are telling them. So if you want to put a focus on something, let's put it on making sure that our kids, like Doug said, are learning something like that actually matters and keeps them in the realm of what we call reality. But then again, Elon Musk says we're so close to not knowing the difference between virtual reality and reality, we might actually be in the game already. we might actually, none of this might actually be real. But that's why I wanted to have the real Doug Woods here, just because we're keeping it real. So Doug, thanks so much. I'll put in the notes and stuff, I'll put the links to Doug's stuff. But yeah, so just imagine, Doug, like 2-3 years from now when we do this again, like I said, we'll be on Mars or something, just like floating by each other in some satellites saying like, hey man, what's happening?
I'd like that. Let's do it from space.
Yeah. Love and appreciate you. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day. This has been Rise Up with Dragon, and just do something with it. Whenever somebody says, hey, great episode, great information, I was really inspired, I always respond by saying, hey, go do something about it. Love and appreciate you.